My name is Matt. The Grass Factor Mark. Bear with me. Doing something a little new for those of you that want to play along at home. I'm actually streaming this to the old YouTube. Hop over to YouTube, type in The Grass Factor. Find everything that's going on over there. Again, just trying something. Today is Monday, so that also means apologize if the sound is coming on a little weird, whatever it may be. I'm getting music is either too loud or the mic is too soft, so I'm gonna turn this down a little bit because I'm sure it's coming through a little slowly. Let me cut that out. Let me see if that worked. Can you hear me now? All right. So welcome aboard the Soul Train. This should be a pretty interesting day for everything we've got going on. I did not have a lot of questions submitted for this week's Pick the Doc's Brain, so we should be good to go. Everybody's saying now, turn your mic up. I've got it going. It should be good now. I think we're all getting it. All right. I'm getting feedback now. We're good. It's this delay we've got going over here too. You have to remember where I'm talking, and what you're seeing on video is also going to be about a 30-second delay, something of the sort. It's going to be pretty significant. So, because this is Pick the Doc's Brain, if you do have questions, feel free to submit them. You can email me at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. You can tweet me at thegrassfactor or at facebook.com/thegrassfactor. Doing this as a live video deal should make it a little interesting. I'm going to warn you, I'll probably end up making a couple mistakes today because, well, this is the first time I've ever done it in this format. Normally, I will do it as a private video. For those of you that are in the Discord, thelawnDiscord.com, you've seen me put up a private video link before. This time, this is not private. We are actually live and just rocking and rolling on it. So I have to pull all copyrighted music out of this because if I don't, my channel can get a strike, and I would prefer not to be in bad favors with Google, if at all possible, because they pretty much have every piece of information about me that they could ever want. Should we make the Google angry or not? I don't know. I'm going to choose not to, at least at this point so far. I digress. So again, for those of you that are wondering or that would like to get in, wondering how to get involved on Pick the Doc's Brain, real easy. Submit a question. We'll put it in front of Ray and let him get to it the best of his ability. And you may say, hey, I don't know if I have a question, but I do have a soil test. Can you look at soil tests? The question is, yes, by all means, we certainly can. Somebody's asking for a link to the Discord. It's real easy. Go to theLawnDiscord.com. Pretty simple. TheLawnDiscord.com will give you an automatic generated link, and you can jump right in. That's kind of the show after the show. Pretty funny stuff here. Actually, Sun's Out, Mowers Out at BakerM1986 on Twitter sent me a video of. I gotta play this. This is his. Let me make sure. Make sure all this is turned down in the background. Let's see if I can.
Don't mat it down.
I don't think you can hear this at all.
You like the fescue, Bobo? Don't mat it down.
His cat is just loving absolute life in a lush green lawn. So, I'll kind of give a backstory on why this was even given to me. I make the mistake sometimes. This was about, I don't know, midnight 30, Saturday night. And I came across one of these people on Twitter that said lawns were a sign of colonialism and classism and all this fun stuff. And man, it just absolutely drove me crazy. Listen, there's no secret. I do this for a living. I'm an advocate for the industry for a living. And so when I see people make those kind of comments, especially knowing they have zero experience in this industry or anything about this industry altogether, it makes me just absolutely ballistic angry. So what did I do? Probably what I shouldn't have done, and that is engaged. I did engage. And boy, I got blocked really quickly. And of course, I couldn't help it. It took over me. So anyway, I wish I could go back and read the original tweet, but I can't because I'm blocked now. But it's another one of these issues where, lawns are racist or something like that was what they were attempting to say. I want to say right now, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I worked in Memphis, Tennessee, and I ran all over the city. I worked way out in the county, like out in Somerville, Fayette County, all that area, which is just reclaimed farmland. And I ran some of the most poor neighborhoods of Memphis there are, like Whitehaven and Orange Mound. I worked there for a long time, multiple years, many years. I cover those territories. And really what it comes down to, it is not... because it didn't matter where you were. You came across very, very high-end lawns no matter where you were in the city. Now, obviously, poverty does play a part, and you did see some properties that very clearly weren't maintained, but it was non-discriminatory. You would see lawns that weren't maintained, whether you were in the ritziest part of Germantown or Collierville, or you're in the middle of Orange Mound. It didn't matter. You wherever you went, you could find whatever it is you were looking for. If you were looking for poverty, you could find it. And the odd thing about Memphis was that you could find poverty basically wherever you went. It didn't matter if you were in a high-end neighborhood or you were in a low-income neighborhood. You could find poverty. In the same instance, you could also find really, really awesome properties. And so it just aggravates me when I read things like that because it's so clear. It is so clear that they have never experienced the world outside of their living room or their bedroom, wherever it is they're stuck. And so my comment was, you should, what is it? My comment was you should get out and experience the world, and you would be shocked at all the positive things you see. You would be absolutely stunned. I think I said the world may shock you if you just drove around and opened your eyes and paid attention a little bit. And of course, the follow-up question to that was, how dare you tell a disabled person to get out? If I could get out, I would do it. Now I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I've told some quadriplegic that to get out and enjoy the world. And so I just started doing a little investigating into their profile, and no, they're up there walking around, and their disability is, I don't know what their disability is, but they are clearly up and walking around in pictures in front of the mirror and all that fun stuff. And I was like, listen, whatever the case may be, I highly recommend, regardless of your disability, to try and find time to be outside. My cousin, who I grew up with, is blind. Not like a little bit blind, like for real blind. Has a cane. And you know what? He was such... he can do anything that I can do. There's no doubt about it. He can do anything I can do. In fact, there were many things that he could do a hell of a lot better than I still can. And you know what? All I'm saying is that I refused to pity this person because they have a disability and didn't want to go outside. I refused to pity them. So it is what it is. I hate you. You suffer from a disability, and I hate you feel like you cannot go and experience life because of your disability. But the reality of the situation is this. If you're able to pose and model your new outfit from Hot Topic in front of the mirror, you surely to goodness can step outside and take a breath of fresh air. I have people commenting over here that they made their so there was actually two people. The original poster did make their account private, so can't pull it up anymore, but there was another one, old Peachy Punk, that did not go private. She just straight up blocked me. All right, real quick, I got to take a break. We're going to bring Ray on live, and then we're going to start going on everything we got going here. Hang on, more coming up after the break.
Hands down and dirty. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Turn existing irrigation systems into organic fertilizing, safe pest repelling machines with the Pro Products Green Feeder System. Irrigation contractors are leaving less money on the table and increasing profits with this easy to install, easy to maintain, unlimited recurring revenue opportunity. Call 800-285-9176. 800-285-9176 and mention Turfs Up Radio for an exclusive offer, or visit proproducts.com to learn more.
Hey guys, it's Frank Board. More lawn care pros are working on their business rather than in them with the Lawn Buddy app. Lawn Buddy puts you in the driver's seat right along with your employees, helping you to guide them through.
What?
Every Wednesday night.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Something has happened to my ad. I'm going to move in right here.
With the Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turfs Up Radio.
Hump day?
We have to put up with this?
The Rock! The hot place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process? Then it's time you checked out the GeoRipper 616. It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned GeoRipper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the GeoRipper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
All right. We're going to move on to that segment we call Pick the Doc's Brain. Ray, are you there, good sir?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm here.
All right. I got nervous there for a second, but you are here. Good deal. Yeah, Ray, it still bothered me because and it turns out people are commenting now and saying their disability was autism, and I have a neighbor 2 houses up. I know the dad very well. The son is autistic, and I tell you what. What I know of that father-son duo is that the father it makes it a very real priority that they get out and see the world. One of the favorite things they like to do on Sunday is get out and drive around and look at the landscape. We live in East Tennessee. It's beautiful out here. That person who was so angry and triggered was in Atlanta, Georgia. There's plenty of places you can go in and around Atlanta. I know. I've been there enough. My parents live there. Anyway, I digress. It made me really mad, Ray.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you doing today, Ray?
I am doing very well. And in fact, I am ultra thankful to be actually here, sitting in my chair and having my coffee, because this weekend we actually had a near miss.
I saw the hurricane moving through, and I'm glad you brought it up. Any storm surge or anything of the sort?
None.
Oh, that's fantastic.
None. I mean, we got like super lucky, because the hurricane literally traveled along the island chain without coming close enough to cause any problems, and certainly not making any landfall, because if it makes landfall, the tiny little islands are basically obliterated.
Yeah, I would say it could be very catastrophic. I'm sure you living on Hawaii, you've experienced a hurricane or two.
I've actually experienced two.
And which was the most destructive that you've been through?
I think the second one in 1992 was even more destructive, because I think that hurricane packed, I believe, peak winds of 200 miles per hour.
Oh boy, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And the hurricane before that, when I was a little kid back in 1981, that maybe got up to 100 something, nowhere near 200. So it was not quite as bad, but then it was still very destructive.
Yeah. I can't imagine, and there's nowhere where you can really go to avoid it either. I mean, once you're there, you're locked in by the water, so there really is no escape route for you. Well, we'll count our blessings on that one, that you did not take a direct hit, and everybody lived to tell about it.
Yeah.
Well, Ray, the first question we had in today, we'll move into turf talk here. The first question we have today is from Bryson. Bryson wanted to know, in the Pacific Northwest, the best time to put down prodiamine in the fall. They're currently hitting 80s now, 70s next week. And also, how long after repairing bare spots with seed can I put down prodiamine? The label says 60 days or second mowing. Is that good?
That's probably about what about there. It's probably about there. And as far as your actual timing of it, I'd like to time it probably before the Poa annua is going to come up. That's my general advice: is you get it down before your Poa annua is going to come up, because in the Pacific Northwest, unless it's where there's actual snow and ice, that is another area that gets just infested with Poa. It's bad. Yeah,
that's kind of that's the real Poa capital of the world, wouldn't you say?
I probably say so. Because remember our buddy in Oregon trying to have the perfect fairway level lawn, and he got into some trouble with emergent Poa, and I gave him a little mix to squash that.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, but it's when you're in the Pacific Northwest, I mean, that's going to be a perpetual thing you have to deal with. So the one thing I can't give you information on, Bryson, is I don't know the ins and outs of your weather pattern. So I'm not going to be able to tell you on a definitive date that, okay, August 15th, you need to apply. What you're going to have to do is look at the germination windows of Poa annua and Poa trivialis, or whatever the case may be. Look at your Poa germination windows, and where you see it most likely to be able to germinate, you want to apply it before then. So if you are going to be consistently in the 70s starting next week, I would be getting it down, and you plan on being in the 70s for the remainder of the year, I would be getting it down now while you're still in the 80s. And I'll kind of give you an example there, Bryson, is even in the South where I'm at, even when I was in Augusta, Georgia, we would apply it the last week of August is when we would transition over to round 6, which was an application of barricade and simazine. And the reason why is because you never knew when you were going to get the appropriate temperature dip that would put you in the window for Poa germination. And so to circumvent it, make sure we just went ahead and made sure and put it out early, even though we may be realistically 45 days early, 55 days early. It's better to be early than it is to be late, as long as you still have a second window. And you have to remember too, Bryson, what we also did was we did a split application in the fall as well, where we actually made 2 applications. Now, as far as how soon after you seed can you put down prodiamine, Ray, you're thinking 60 days is a general good rule of thumb there?
It's a general good rule of thumb, but if you actually have a healthy, established turf, I would stop worrying about it, worry more about the weeds. You see, I'm one of those guys where dates on a calendar are very secondary to what I'm actually seeing day by day, and that goes in regards to both condition of the grass and anything correlated with weather conditions. For example, say you're talking about when is spring, when is fall. I don't go by a date on the calendar so much as I'm constantly watching and cataloging actual weather conditions, and I'm looking for trends. I'm not looking at a specific date on the calendar. I'm always looking for the weather trends.
Yeah, 60 days to me seems like an awfully long time because the majority of the time, I'm not saying every time with 100% certainty, but the majority of the time, within 60 days, you're at a pretty mature plant. And realistically, you can hit that same level of maturity in about 30 days. So 60 days to me seems like it's incredibly safe, probably overly safe. And really, or your second mowing is the caveat on that. And I think that is enough of a safety buffer. If you can cut it twice, you're good to go ahead and apply your prodiamine. The situation you don't want to get into is put down your seed, have it begin to emerge, and then you start to spray it, and then you inhibit the time it takes to reach maturity. That's doable. I've seen that happen before.
Absolutely. And here is what I really, really love about prodiamine. Prodiamine is one of those herbicides where I find that I am able to actually scale the effect of it according to the rate that I actually apply. I deal with, for example, a lot of plugged or sprigged warm season lawns, right? Recently plugged or sprigged. And you're thinking, oh no, you cannot apply herbicides to that. Yes, you can. And the way I get it done is I apply a low rate of prodiamine as a split application versus that one massive application. And I think that even holds true with the application to a recently seeded area. If you can scale your application and use a lower rate and plan on coming back with the second half of the split, then I don't think it's going to be nearly as damaging as, say, spraying on the full rate application. It's different. It's different.
It is, and you're exactly right. And a lot of times, Ray, what I end up see happening is people who manage warm season turf in the area, what they do is they run split applications in the fall for their fall pre-emergent. But people who pre-emerge their cool season grass in the fall is they end up running one full rate fall application. And I think that's where people end up running into issues. I think about one of the later properties I was taking care of, and the situation at hand was they had done one full rate of prodiamine in the fall about a week. In fact, I think as crazy it sounds, I think the technician made a mistake. They had seeded it and came back to do a fertilizer application, and the technician made a mistake and put down like a 007 with Barricade as the follow-up fertilizer application, and it just, boy, it really put a hamper on the turf. It wasn't growing upright. It wasn't really growing at all. It had yellowed out in a lot of spots. In a couple spots, it was very clearly dying. And it was a struggle from that point forward to actually get it to grow again. And one of the things I actually did was run an incredibly high rate of humic to try and bind up some of that pre-emergent to get it growing again. And it ended up working out okay for me, and that was fine, and that was great. But if it would have been a half rate application, I guarantee you the effects I was seeing, I may not have even noticed them if it had just been a split rate.
Yeah, that's right. Because the other week I did something extremely brave. I acquired a new customer that had just had Zoysia sprigs installed, like 2 or 3 weeks prior to me seeing his lawn, and one of the first things I did to him was apply a half a pound per acre of the Barricade WDG. And the reason why I did that was because I could already see the goosegrass and the barnyard grass starting. And I needed to hold that back before this got too far ahead of us.
Ray, real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, let's kind of continue on the same train of thought here. How does that work for you, sir?
Oh yeah. Let's get into this. Let's get into this.
All right. There you have it. Real quick, we're going to be taking a break. When we come back, we will keep on keeping on live right here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Doing the crossover, cross-promotional. If you want to watch on video, let's see what we got going on right now. Read all the comments. You can do so at YouTube at The Grass Factor. Hang on, more coming up after the break. Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world, no one rocks like Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Project Evergreen supports military families with free lawn, landscape, and snow removal services. To give or get help through green care or snow care for troops, visit projectevergreen.org. Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it green care and snow care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Hey everybody, it's Brooke Ford, host of The Green Veteran here on Turfs Up Radio. Be sure to check me out every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're going to hear some great one-on-one interviews with green industry professionals. We're going to talk about best business practices, highlight innovative products, and also provide some insight into some new emerging technologies in the field. That's the Green Veteran, airing each Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
All right, we are back. Kind of soft music is this? It sounds like crap. All right, let me get this off. All right, Ray, we take a little break. Now, I'll kind of chime in here. We had a follow-up question, and the question is it not normal practice to put down pre-emergent and cool season grass after the second mowing? And the one thing I want to caveat here, Grace, is when we're talking about putting down pre-emergent in this instance, we're talking about in the fall. And I can say, at least in my area, where the areas where I have maintained cool season grass, no, it is not normal in residential lawns to put down pre-emergent in the fall. It's not to say you can't. You certainly can. By all means, have at it. Go for it. Go ham. Whatever you shall please will be your friend. However, I do not, because normally I'm seeding on September 15th. Is about the time when I start, maybe September 1st if I'm lucky. And if my cool season grass is germinating, that also means my Poa annua is germinating. So because of the overlap there, for me, it never made sense to go ahead and still apply it. If I need to do some rescue applications, I may go in with a little ethifumicate in the spring and call it good. But as long as I could get my fescue up and going quickly, then normally I was not dealing with Poa annua really. And the big thing when I was managing Poa annua in residential lawns was making sure I got seed established in all the hot spots, like the areas along the driveway, like the areas around the base of the tree, like the areas bordering the landscape beds. That's why the garden weasel, if you've ever seen any of Pete Denny's videos, he uses that garden weasel all the time for individual spots. That is so important to keep the Poa pressure away, because if you've got fescue growing in that area, I guarantee you the germination rate of Poa is going to be that much lower. So I normally did not put down a fall pre-emergent, but again, that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, that's all about your cultural practices, and people also wonder why I have this almost hatred for string trimmers. And the reason why is, those areas that you just mentioned, that those are your hot spots for Poa. Okay, my hot spots for severe infestation by prostrate spurge and oxalis are driveway, areas bordering driveways and sidewalks, number one, and areas around garden beds. And the reason why those are hot spots is because those are the areas that normally cannot be mowed with a mower. So somebody has to come from behind with a string trimmer. And when they do that, the grass is torn off of the ground, and that leaves an opening for the weeds to come out.
100%. There it is.
Yeah. Because I use an alternate, tool for trimming and grooming those areas, and I find that in time, I actually can get my warm season grass to grow back in those areas and tremendously reduce my weed pressure, tremendously reduce it just by changing how those areas are trimmed.
Here's kind of the thing I have to say about it in the future too is actually, Ray, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. You do your seed work. Some areas establish, some areas don't. You go ahead and you put down your pre-emergent, and you decide you want to touch up some more areas with seed. At that point, what is the best way to go about getting seed established in those areas?
Okay, if you need to establish seed in areas that were previously treated with a pre-emergent or soil active herbicide, you will need to put down 20 to 50 pounds of activated charcoal or its equivalent in those areas that you intend to seed, and get that incorporated into the soil, and then you can attempt to seed.
What
In fact,
about disturbing the soil surface really aggressively? If you did take that route of disturbing the soil surface, how deep would you have to go?
With prodiamine, believe it or not, the pre-emergent layer or vapor barrier created by prodiamine only goes down approximately a half an inch, if that. In fact, I keep on seeing this chart put up by the various herbicide manufacturers, all touting the benefit of their quote-unquote pre-emergent. But what stands out to me is, in order of how deeply a pre-emergent goes in the soil, prodiamine is known for not going down very far. Dimension goes down a little bit further. And what goes down even further than that, pendimethalin, and then what goes down the furthest is oryzolin or surflan. And believe it or not, how deep the pre-emergent goes into the soil also affects how negatively it affects the desirable turf grass.
So effectively, the deeper the material moves into the soil, the greater the ability to interfere with the desirable turfgrass root system. Is that what I'm understanding correct? If I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's totally correct. You stated it simply, and what that means is, I always talk about root pruning, right?
Yes.
The root pruning from a pre-emergent. And in other words, if I want to root prune something or deny an area to grass, I actually like to select either pendimethalin or oryzolin to do that job. In fact, those are the two pre-emergents that I do not routinely apply over the top of turf grass or desirable turf grass ever. I don't do it.
We had a question here. Ryan said, using prodiamine with a surfactant, should that or would that help with the depth it moves into the soil?
Actually, no. It wouldn't help, because prodiamine and all of these other organic-based pre-emergents, they all have a differing capacity to bind to soil and organic matter. And that is what's controlling how far they move. It is not strictly based on it being infinitely soluble and mobile with water. In fact, that is the reason why there is very little regulatory concerns with these pre-emergents, is because they do not have an infinite ability to move with water. An example of pre-emergents or herbicides that are able to move infinitely with water include atrazine and phenazine.
Oh yeah,
and that's why they're in the crosshairs of the EPA. That's why the European Union actually has banned those herbicides. But your conventional grassy weed pre-emergent, as you use them in turf grass, does not have an infinite ability to move with water.
What about some not friendly for residential lawn care pre-emergents like oxidizon, Ronstar?
Okay, Ronstar, that is another one that actually has a very limited ability to move in soil. In fact, the main use of oxidizon or Ronstar is, I find that to be an extremely effective pre-emergent for use under and around hedges and plantings of trees and shrubs. It is the best pre-emergent by far because it does not move downward in the soil and it does not cause root pruning. In fact, that product is even very heavy in the nursery trade because it does not root prune.
It's a never-ending world of interest, and that's a great point that you brought up about prodiamine and the surfactant and moving it into the soil, because I see a lot of people. I'm not going to name any names, but I see people out there that have products that you add to prodiamine in your tank mix that is supposed to do a better job of making sure it ends up in the soil and not, we'll say, like adhered to the leaf blade, or what was one of the others? If you can make a better emulsion out of it with water, then you're going to get a better result out of it. Are those things snake oil, or is there some legitimacy in adding some of those compatibility mixtures with it? Compatibility enhancers is the word I'm looking for.
It's all snake oil. It's all garbage, because the way that I ensure that my soil active, application is effective is, number one, apply only to a turf grass area that has adequate water to begin with. So, for example, this whole business of coming to a dried out lawn, making an application, and then hoping that it rains in the next week or two or month, that is not getting the most out of your application. That is not at all. I mean, the way I work is, I know my irrigation system is run within the last week, so I see adequate soil moisture, and then I know that in a timely manner that irrigation is going to come back on and then move my material off of the grass leaves and down into the soil where it belongs. And in the case of certain materials, I actually will manually trigger the irrigation system to make sure that product goes down into the soil before I even leave.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've used a few of them over the years, and I will say this is, if you're looking for a mixture that is not going to settle out over a long period of time, then yeah, it tends to make it look like it does better there. You can put it in a jar and you can you move it back and forth, and yeah, it looks like it's made just a perfect homogeneous solution of prodiamine and whatever else you have in there. But the reality of the situation is this, is that if you have adequate agitation, you're going to be good. And also the second piece of that is watering in after your application. Just get watered in, and a lot of these things are going to be over and done with, and what you were concerned about has already been satisfied because, well, you watered it in.
That is correct. That is totally correct. The only kind of formulation I can imagine that will make a difference is if the manufacturers themselves decide to encapsulate individual crystals of, say, prodiamine in a polymer microcapsule. And I have seen or heard of some herbicides, especially for agriculture, that is in fact the formulation where the active ingredient is literally a suspension of the crystals of the active ingredient encapsulated in the polymer, and it looks like a milky, not very viscous liquid, but then it's milky looking, and that's all the active ingredient encased in a polymer suspended in water.
Real quick, Ray, I've got to take a break. When we come back, we got a couple more questions for you here regarding prodiamine still. We're going to be talking a little bit about applying it as a granular coming up after the break. All right, real quick, got to pay the bills. We got some granular talk coming up. We're going to talk about granular, pre-emergent, and all that fun stuff. Hang on, more coming up after the break.
Hey everybody, this is Hecubus from the Nightcap. I'm just sitting here relaxing within the vault with my friends and a tasty, tasty pint. You should stop by and listen in sometime. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, live only on Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, lawn and landscape pros. I'm talking to you. Don't let your edge go dull. Your competitive edge. Sharpen your edge at the GIE Plus Expo this October 21st through the 23rd in Louisville, Kentucky.
Understand the word coming out of my mouth?
Innovative products, latest technology. Talk face-to-face with engineers that design your favorite equipment. Then step outside and dive into the hands-on demo area where you can drive, dig, and compare equipment to your heart's delight.
Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong.
This year, the wow gets even bigger with the new UTV test track, the hands-on drone zone, and free parking. Register now at GIE-expo.com, and we'll see you in Louisville, Kentucky this October.
Hey, Turf's Up Radio fans, do you know what time it is? That's right, it's time for Turf's Up Radio. Now you can catch us streaming live 24/7 with pro talk, pro tips, and pro interviews. Simply visit turfsupradio.com.
Boy, I keep running into
Monday through
issues
Friday,
here.
4 to 6 p.m. The Drive Home with Matt, the Grass Factor Martin. Tune in Monday through Friday to take your turf management program to the next level. Only on Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, this is Darren.
All right, that time we got it. That time we got it. All right, Ray, we're back. So the question is what about using a granule like Halts? And I don't know. There's no more information on the question other than that. But same principle. All you've done is taken the active ingredient, adhered it to the outside of a prill, and as you water it, it moves it into the soil. I mean, there's nothing really more to it than that, is there?
Yeah, except last time I looked at a bag of Halts, I realized that their active ingredient was pendimethalin.
Pendimethalin.
Yeah, pendimethalin. And, well, what if I told you that I've even seen Halts here in Hawaii? I've seen it sold. And I've also seen what happens when somebody applies it.
What are you alluding to there?
What I'm alluding to there is how much of a root pruner pendimethalin actually can be.
Ah.
Because let me explain. I've come to realize that a lot of the maintained, what I call maintained turf grass that I see locally is actually at the level of a golf fairway or a golf tee. Because lawn height, for example, is anywhere from 2 inches to 4 inches, right? But what happens when you're dealing with turf that's a half an inch all the way down to 3/8 of an inch? That's different, isn't it?
Yes, much different, considerably different.
Right. And last time I looked, a number of products have different considerations for when you're making the application to golf turf. Rates are lower, and there's also, precautions associated with that. It's not the same as spreading it out over higher cut grass because, for example, here's what I've come to know. High cut Bermuda, Bermuda that is just kept as a rough, minimally maintained turf over an inch and a half tall. I find that grass to be virtually unfazed or unkillable by most herbicides.
As a general blanket statement, yes, I would say it is exponentially more difficult to harm turf at 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches than it is at a half an inch.
Yeah, versus when you're talking about, say, something like Bermuda that is then maintained at a half an inch or lower, you've got to be extremely careful. You've got to be extremely careful because you're dealing with the equivalent of a Gulf green or a Gulf tea at that point.
So Daniel, the Lawn Stripes here, asked about dithiopyr for use in POA prevention and the liquid full rate for post-emergent control. So, and I think this is one of those things that can kind of be head exploding thing is, can you get out of early tillered Poa annua, can you get post-emergent control out of dithiopyr if you apply it at max label rate with a surfactant?
You possibly could, although I know that dithiopyr is most famous for doing something to crabgrass at the early tiller stages when you apply with a surfactant. In fact, that's exactly what I use my dimension for, is when I need to go after emerged crabgrass.
Yeah, using it to control POA, I have sprayed dithiopyr even well in excess of max label rate on early emerged POA, just for grins and giggles to see what's going to happen. And I've never had any success with it. Your mileage may vary wherever you are out there. I would not get my hopes up that if you see it coming up by your air conditioner and you give it a little extra heavy drench right there in an effort to try and get it to go out, it ain't gonna happen. I'm just saying you might get a little bit of discoloration or something, but that's gonna be about it.
Actually, the only herbicide that is normally a pre-emergent but will kill recently emerged POA is Engazoflam or Spectacle. However, Engazoflam or Spectacle is probably the best way I know of to absolutely remove cool season grasses. Yep.
You said
that's right.
You said which one?
Engazoflam or Spectacle.
Okay.
Okay.
And why that one being so effective?
Apparently, for whatever reason, that active ingredient tends to go after anything cool season, especially hard. Like, they use that on the fairways and the non-play areas in a Bermuda or Zoysia golf course, and then somebody either tracks that onto the bent green or else it runs downhill to an area of bent grass. That Spectacle then proceeds to take out the bent like you wouldn't believe. And it doesn't take very much to make that happen.
Ryan in the chat was asking if we've talked about Spectacle, and we can certainly say a lot about Spectacle, and I feel like in terms of just a singular product, it's kind of the last defense we have. And I'll say this also, Ryan, is that the years of Spectacle being the thunderous one and done type of product that it has been, those days are numbered, if not over already. Ray, you and I have talked about this before. Even I've got a buddy in Atlanta who is just infuriated that it's not performing like it was. And
it's not.
and
It's not.
yeah, and having to shell out the money on Revolver or Tribute or whatever post-emergent product you want to run on Poa, but you're having to spend big bucks on that.
Exactly, and the thing is that is because, again, part of it is poor product usage and poor application. Like, what I have a problem with here is all of my goosegrass and crabgrass comes up between November and April. That's when it comes up with a vengeance. Because the desirable turf is, of course, semi-dormant, not really growing, and yet that is just fine and good for all of the coarse grassy weeds. So what I do is, starting in the fall, I make a low-rate split application of Spectacle, and then I do it again one more time after that to complete the split, and then that carries me through that period, and then I switch in the spring to a split application of Prodiamine. And of course, my rules for dealing with anything that has emerged apply. Anything that emerges gets killed and destroyed by any means necessary.
Playing your part to make sure it's as effective as long as possible.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the last 20 years of being in the turf maintenance business has basically taught me the importance of preservation of product efficacy. That is like my biggest message or lesson that I got starting in the 2000s, when anything and everything that worked just got banned. Okay, that's like the hardest and the most important lesson that I've learned. And in fact, here locally, I frequently get calls from people that tell me, this used to work so well when it came out, and now it's hardly touching the weeds, and now we're in trouble. We got problems.
Exactly.
We got problems, and so Spectacle is a good tool, but here's my position overall. I do not consider any of these newer products coming down or in the development pipeline to be the thunderous Thor's hammer, so to speak, because none of them are organophosphates, chlorinated hydrocarbons, or arsenicals. Nothing like that. Instead, what's coming down the pipeline or becoming available are all extremely selective products that have a very specific mode of action. But then, do you know what you trade off for a very specific and selective mode of action, Matt? Do you know what you trade that for?
Increased potential for resistance?
Yes. That is correct. That's what you trade off. Because I know it comes up regularly on the forums about using chlorothalonil. The loss of chlorothalonil is actually devastating, because that was one of my main ways to make sure that my dollar spot, my leaf spot, etc., would remain susceptible to DMI and benzimidazole fungicides like Cleary 3336. Because if you use something like propiconazole or Cleary 3336 against dollar spot as a standalone application, you are literally playing with fire. And in fact, I've read many instances of where golf courses, for example, they have trouble controlling their dollar spot with the latest and greatest, safer, systemic fungicides. It's become resistant. And I guess that parlays into the Poa annua issue, is that for a long time, correct me if I'm wrong, the other Thor's hammer of Poa control was dormant season application of glyphosate.
Booyah.
Yeah. And I actually consider glyphosate to be high risk as well, because glyphosate works on one specific enzyme in plants. One specific enzyme. So if the plant can overcome that enzyme inhibition, there you go. That weed is now resistant.
Ray, I got to take a break when we real quick, but when we come back, I want to continue in this vein, because we got some interesting questions kind of about this too. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the reasons why herbicides or fungicides end up getting banned or not allowed to be used in residential turf, and also a touch on what happened to MSMA. I'll get that out all though. All right, you're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. The Drive Home with Matt the Grass Factor Martin. Tune in Monday through Friday to take your turf management program to the next level. Only on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, this is Darren, CEO and lead designer of Totalscape Design. As many of you know, I built my career designing and building thousands of high-end landscapes for property owners. But when it came time to locating plant materials and getting them delivered on time, it was always a hassle. Locating up-to-spec material and organizing logistics took too much of my time. But not anymore, because I found Go Materials. Go Materials takes the hassle out of my plant sourcing. They do all the searching for me. They compare prices, check availability, and ensure quality. They even get everything I need to my project where and when I need them. All I do is send them my list of materials, and they take care of the rest. So do what I do and take
This is Jeff Hesser, senior contributor and co-host of the Weekend Review here on Turfs Up Radio. Can't make it to major green industry events, but want to stay connected? Don't worry, we have you covered. Be sure to download the Turfs Up Radio app or visit our website. We'll bring you the live coverage you need to keep you up to date with everything that happens in our industry. And to find out where we'll be next, simply visit greenindustryevents.com. That's greenindustryevents.com. And always remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Yeah, all right, we were back. Oh, MSMA. So I think it's kind of perfect. We can lump these in together here, Ray. Why?
Okay.
Why? First and foremost, why did we see these products being removed from residential lawn care?
Okay, let us rewind back to 1996.
All right, I'm back there.
Okay. 1996. Legislation was signed into law with the name of the Food Quality Protection Act. Okay. And what this Food Quality Protection Act, or FQPA, mandated was a risk assessment and review of all previously registered pesticides. And that review process also utilized, number one, an ultra or extremely conservative risk assessment algorithm that, to me, is not based on actual reality or science, but that's another topic. But anyway, all of our existing products were put through that risk assessment algorithm, and one of the side effects of that risk assessment algorithm is that that algorithm also estimates an individual's total exposure to a given active ingredient, be it through produce or incidental contact from household pest control or use on outdoor turf grass and ornamentals. And there's a number of products like chlorothalonil that basically the deal made between the product manufacturers and distributors and the EPA is that they will permit continued use of it on produce, provided that people are not exposed to it in a residential turf setting. That's one example. Number two, MSMA. According to the FQPA process, it was determined that any presence of arsenic in the groundwater was problematic, and I need to even get into an extremely disturbing, like, product trial or, research done by someone in the University of Florida system. Matt, do you know what that research was?
No, I'm not aware. Go ahead.
Okay. This researcher wanted to determine how long you would have to wait between applying MSMA and before it rains for that MSMA application to be still effective. In other words, what he was trying to figure out was, if you spray MSMA in the morning, will it still work if you have the famous Florida thunderstorm in the afternoon come by?
Which is basically all of Florida, during the peak growing season. And I've got to say, really, through many places of the South, and I can't tell you how many times, right? And this is just straight out of the playbook of being out and treating lawns. How many times I have sprayed acres of MSMA only to have a thunderstorm roll up as I'm finishing.
Yep. And when that thunderstorm happens, guess where all of that MSMA goes, Matt? Guess where it goes?
Back to the storm drains or back to fresh water sources?
Right, straight into the water table. Straight into the water table. And I know the red flag or the hot button that started this all was when the EPA sampled the groundwater underneath, I think, a Florida golf course and found high levels of arsenic in that groundwater. And that put the process in motion to limit MSMA.
And for those of y'all that are listening right now too, what you have to understand is that MSMA, when I say it was the herbicide applied, I'm not kidding. Literally, if you were south of Kentucky, even into Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, I mean, that was the herbicide in the summertime. You may spike it with a little something. You may add a little three-way to it, or whatever the case may be, to get your kicker out of it for buttonweed or whatever it is you may be spraying. But that was the herbicide that everybody carried around 100 gallons of pre-mixed material ready to go at any given time.
Oh, yeah. And here in Hawaii, what if I told you that I remember for the longest time there were 1 pint or 1 quart bottles of 6 pound per gallon MSMA concentrate right there on the stores of hardware, right there in the shelves of the hardware stores.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I can remember seeing it going into a Rural King or an Ace or Tractor Supply Company. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah. But then I know over here in Hawaii, because of our severe problem with goosegrass, our preferred kickers and our problem with nutsedge, our preferred kickers for MSMA were 1, Timazine or Syncor. For nutsedge, our kicker for MSMA was imazaquin. And I remember in my early lawn care days from 1990 up until 2006, if I came to somebody's lawn and it was just a disaster area, my standard mode then was MSMA, Timazine, Image, and of course, if they had broadleaf weeds to add to that horrible mess, I then throw in Bandel in the tank.
Ray, Telly wanted to know what form is and I think he's alluding to organic versus inorganic arsenic, and so is exposure to MSMA going to be immediately toxic when it begins to accumulate in the soil? Is it accumulating as an organic toxic arsenic, or is it accumulating as an inorganic arsenic? What's the big fear around it? Because people have been applying it for a long time and they're not dropping dead like they've been exposed to arsenic.
Okay, that is because this is something to make note of. MSMA is organically bound arsenic, which is many orders less toxic than what's known as inorganic arsenic. Because in fact, the most toxic forms of arsenic are what's called arsenic trioxide, or number 2, arsenic bound to sodium, copper, lead, or calcium.
Boy.
Oh yeah, because whereas, to give you the idea, MSMA has an LB50 of approximately, I believe, 500 to 800 milligrams per kilogram. But those arsenic compounds that are bound to just metals and oxygen, LB50 on those compounds is no more than, I believe, 5 to 10 milligrams per kilogram.
You see, so by a factor of 10 or even 100.
Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. So in other words, I never worried about spraying or applying MSMA as long as I took reasonable precautions. However, according to the EPA, what then happens with MSMA is that when it hits the soil, that organic component is decoupled and it is then converted into inorganic ionic arsenic. However, to me, the amount of inorganic arsenic is actually comparatively low. It's comparatively low. I mean, in other words, their algorithm basically grossly overstated the risk. Grossly overstated it. No, by the way, did you know that Australia still allows MSMA on the turf grass?
It doesn't shock me.
Yeah, they still allow it. But anyway, their rationale was that MSMA applied to turf grass then would convert to that inorganic ionic arsenic in the soil, and then that inorganic arsenic then leaches down into groundwater. But by the way, in most soils, arsenic is also very tightly bound to clay. Very, very tightly bound. So in other words, it's not very mobile in the soil. And the only time that arsenic is actually a problem is if the soil in the area should become completely saturated and is unable to bind anymore, or if the groundwater supply is in the presence of naturally occurring minerals with a high arsenic content. And oh, by the way, this is actually an issue or a problem in Southeast Asia, in countries like Bangladesh and Indonesia, where their groundwater wells have naturally high levels of arsenic.
Yeah, I think there's a much bigger case for it than there is against it. But unfortunately, the minds that make the decisions have made the decision. And if we're ever to conquer an opportunity to get it back, it's going to be through demonstration of responsible use. And that seems to be the most difficult part, because it doesn't take long to do a little digging around on the internet and see people still haphazardly and without caution or without worry or without regard to the label. And I'm not just saying the MSMA label. I can insert any herbicide you want. Just a general disregard for labels altogether. And that's not going to get an herbicide back.
It's not. It's not going to get an herbicide back. And in fact, I am ultra thankful that apparently no one from the EPA gets on YouTube. No, I am thankful, because I'm so thankful, because if they ever saw some of the things that you and I have seen, they would come to the conclusion of, we need to just ban everything. Ban it all. Everything.
That is my big fear. Ray, real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, can we talk about sulfonylureas? We're getting some questions about that, just because we're seeing so many sulfonylureas out on the market right now.
Totally.
You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Give me just a minute. We're going to take a break. When we come back, sulfonylureas, they're all over the place. Why? I think there's a lot to unpack there. And we'll break right into it. That's why we've got this segment that we call Pick the Doc's Brain. Hang on. More after the break.
Playing the best music.
Hands down and dirty. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Turn existing irrigation systems into organic fertilizing, safe pest repelling machines with the Pro Products Green Feeder System. Irrigation contractors are leaving less money on the table and increasing profits with this easy to install, easy to maintain, unlimited recurring revenue opportunity. Call 800-285-9176. 800-285-9176 and mention Turfs Up Radio for an exclusive offer, or visit proproducts.com to learn more.
Hey guys, it's Frank Board. More lawn care pros are working on their business rather than in them with the Lawn Buddy app. Lawn Buddy puts you in the driver's seat right along with your employees, helping you to guide them through.
Man, it did it again. I don't know.
Wednesday night.
That's all right.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Hump night with the Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turf's Up Radio.
Hump day?
We have to put up with this?
The Rock! The hot place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turf's Up Radio. Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process? Then it's time you checked out the GeoRipper 616. It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned GeoRipper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the GeoRipper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
We're back. Moving into segment number 6 here. Pick the Doc's Brain. All right, Ray. So Ryan had a question here. Why are sulfonylureas okay? Sees a lot of them. Solero dismisses actually an HPPD inhibitor, not an ALS inhibitor. Katana, Revolver, methylfuron methyl, halosulfuron. Why are those considered okay? And are there any actual health risks we need to be aware of by choosing to use those?
Actually, sulfonylurea herbicides are examples of herbicides that, one, have a very high LD50. In other words, you could eat it by the pound and nothing would happen to you. And number 2, there are no known long-term effects such as being a carcinogen, mutagen, teratogen. Oh, by the way, a teratogen is a material that causes birth defects. So none of those effects are associated with any of the sulfonylurea herbicides. So the EPA classifies them as reduced risk. And there's also the issue of the fact that most soil bind them so tightly that there is little to no chance of them entering groundwater. And they also, once they are in water, they're extremely sensitive to a process called hydrolysis. In other words, the water itself will cause that molecule to break down. That is why I give people a hard time when they tell me that they're keeping their Prosage in a little spray bottle or hand can day after day or week after week, because they're just wasting the product.
And sulfonylureas are also big in the medical industry as well. You see many medications formulated as a sulfonylurea.
Okay, that is because with the medical sulfonylureas, what they do, which is totally different from the agricultural sulfonylureas, is that the medical sulfonylureas alter how the pancreas acts. That's why they're frequently prescribed for type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, and totally different active ingredients there. Like, you're not going to see sulfonylurea as a treatment for diabetes, or methylfuron as a treatment for diabetes. Totally different active ingredients, but they're formulated as sulfonylurea. So some crossover there. I've always said, Ray, that the herbicide industry feels a lot to me like the pharmaceutical industry, in the sense that it's almost approached the same way as pharmaceuticals, where you've got to put your product through research trials, right, to show its safety, and also its efficacy, and then label development, and make sure everything you claim on the label is legally justifiable. And then it's released on patent, and you pay a premium for it for the 7 years or 11 years, whatever the case may be. And then it comes off patent, and then you can get it cheaper through generic manufacturing kind of deal. It's just such a similar cycle that it feels like one and the same. And also, kind of in the same vein, where when you see a product released in medicine, a lot of times it promises the world, right? It's gonna cure this and cure that and fix this and fix that, and then you take it and you realize, well, it's actually really good at this one thing. It might help a little bit in those other off-label type scenarios, but really, in reality, it's just this one deal here that it actually works. And also, you think about it, tolerance to medications is a very real thing, just like tolerance to herbicides and weeds, whatever it is you're trying to control, is a very real thing too. Just an odd kind of correlation there.
Sure, and it doesn't help that in many cases, your pharmaceutical manufacturers also have an agricultural division, like, say, Bayer.
Yeah.
And also Syngenta.
Syngenta, aren't they big? Do they do human health, or are they? I know they do vet, don't they?
Okay. In another time, Syngenta was this company called Novartis, and Novartis, I believe, did both agricultural and pharmaceutical chemicals, but then that split, and Novartis is now strictly pharmaceutical. So, but Bayer is, basically a giant, because under one name, they're both doing human health, veterinary medicine, and agriculture.
Bayer has a lot of the like the flea and tick treatments that goes on dogs and cats and all that, but they get full-fledged into it. I mean, do they like manufacture ketamine and all that too?
Actually, ketamine is manufactured by another pharmaceutical company that I know. Their specialty is narcotics and anesthetics.
Okay.
Okay, it's to give you a name, I think it's this company called Jennison.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a company that basically everything they manufacture are basically mind-altering chemicals.
Yeah. they keep that centrally located.
Yeah. It's all of your stuff to knock you out, get you high, or other. Yeah, your ketamine, I believe, and all manner of like anesthetics and narcotics and mind-altering substances, but unfortunately, they don't have anything to do with the agricultural side.
We're just kind of tap dancing around on that. Ray, those are all the questions we had today. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us. We really appreciate it, sir.
Oh yes. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here, and I think we covered some very good topics, and I basically unwrapped for everybody why and how something gets banned, because a frequent question that I get is, was that product that got banned that bad? And my honest answer is that in most cases, No, it wasn't that bad because those products had a long history of relatively safe use before they got banned.
Sure.
So it's that's just where I question, and I actually had to start digging deep into something called the re-registration eligibility decision document that the EPA generates for every single active ingredient that they are reviewing under the purview of the FQPA. And a lot of the rationale for their decisions is out there, Matt. It is totally out there. It is insane.
Well, maybe one day we'll see some rationality move back in, and everything will be right in the world.
Yeah, well, because everybody complains or is concerned about how the Supreme Court, for example, that's an appointment for life. But I can also tell you that employment at the EPA is also a lifetime position unless somebody decides to, voluntarily resign. In other words, not even the president himself has the power to, with a stroke of his pen, clear out everyone at the EPA. He can't do that.
Right.
You can't do that. And so I will end by saying that, that is why what happened in 1996 is continuing to affect us essentially unaltered to this day. There's been no modification of that process put in motion. None.
It's all we can do is hope, Ray. All we can do is be good voices, good stewards, and hope that through it all, somehow, some way, we'll find a way.
Yes. Yeah, we'll find a way. And that is why I know for me, I get triggered when I hear about existing registered pesticides being misused. That triggers me. That really triggers me.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's like my ultimate sore subject. And in the case of that MSMA, the fewer people actually use it, the more likely it is to come back, because when fewer people use it, then the amount of background arsenic that the EPA can find out in the environment will be low enough that they will then consider that MSMA is not the menace and the hazard that they think it is. But when people go out and buy it on eBay, buy it on Amazon, or walk into a co-op and buy it, even though they're not a cotton farmer, that all just goes out because they are adding to the total amount of arsenic present in the environment, because that's actually what the EPA is doing. They're literally going out and testing for the various active ingredients that they want to ban or restrict. And the presence of that out in the environment is basically what's driving their decision to ban or restrict. That's driving the decision. The more they find, the more they can justify banning or restricting.
Ray,
it's as simple as that.
I'm up against a break, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And that's why people have heard us for a long time harp on these products and why you shouldn't be using them off-label or outside of the label, and why there are other options out there that are going to deliver the same result. It may cost you a little bit more money, but at the end of the day, it ultimately will provide an opportunity for us to be able to get it back at some point. Maybe, just maybe, if we can demonstrate a little bit of reserve and place an emphasis on environmental concern. If we can do that for a little while, over the long term, there is a chance we may be able to pay to play again. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate you, sir.
Okay.
All right. That is the Green Doc himself right there every Monday on Turfs Up Radio. Real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, we still got 2 more segments that we're going to be filling in, so don't go anywhere. You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, this is Darren, your host of the Weekend Review here on Turfs Up Radio. Be sure not to miss a new episode every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I'll be with a new guest contributor every week reviewing what you may have missed on Turfs Up Radio, and together we'll help you plan your week by getting you the most out of our Traffic on the Turf and Product of the Day segments. That's the Weekend Review every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Playing the best music.
Hands down and dirty. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey guys, it's Frank Board. More lawn care pros are working on their business rather than in them with the Lawn Buddy app. Lawn Buddy puts you in the driver's seat right along with your employees, helping you to guide them through their work while you focus on growth. With the Lawn Buddy app, you'll be more confident that work is being done and more money is being made faster. To learn how Lawn Buddy can help your lawn care business, visit lawnbuddy.com or simply download the Lawn Buddy app today. Great job, guys.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Project Evergreen supports military families with free lawn, landscape, and snow removal.
I don't know, somehow all these only got partially uploaded into my soundboard. I have to correct that. Again, big thanks to Ray for coming on and taking all our asses to school. And I was talking earlier. I was trying to avoid the crazy rant on MSMA that I always go through, but sometimes I can't help it. And the reason why is I want everybody to take for a second and step back, whether you're a professional lawn care, whether you do this part-time, whether you do it full-time, whether you do it as a hobby, whatever the case may be. There are people that depend on the availability of these herbicides, Ray included. Ray is one of those people that the fewer tools in the toolbox he has access to, the more difficult it is for him to come up with solutions to be able to take care of a lot of these problems he encounters. So that's why it's so important that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, right? Because in this instance, it's kind of similar, and I'm going to relate it to something way off the wall here, but in reality, it's kind of the same thing. If I wanted to, I could look around and I could go probably find heroin somewhere, but I'm not going to do that because of the ramifications and repercussions of doing that. One, there's a legal reproduction. Two, there's a family aspect to it, all that. And it's kind of the same thing. Legally, I cannot legally go apply MSMA to a residential lawn. There are restrictions to do it. Just because I can buy it doesn't mean I can go apply it. Now, legally, I can't go buy heroin. But in the same instance, just because I can get it doesn't mean I should use it, kind of deal, right? It's just that's the way I kind of look at it. Aldo said heroin on a turf show. This is 2020. You're right. Kind of that was a little extreme. I probably shouldn't have gone there, but I see it all over the place. I see it everywhere where people are just like, hey, I'm going to, but I just like Ray said, I saw it on eBay. I see it on the community Facebook groups all the time where they're like, oh, I'm so excited. I finally got my MSMA in. I can't wait to go spray it. And I'm like, you dumbass, you absolute dumbass. There are people that depend on the availability of that product. And if there's ever a time that we're going to get it back, don't sign the dotted guarantee to make sure we don't get it back. It doesn't make any sense. It drives me crazy. It drives me bonkers. And I've gone on far too many rants about it because I'm tired of the people who unintentionally end up being the ones who suffer from it, suffering. Yeah, it's just the reality of the situation. To put it back in, what is it? The topic of opioids, right? You think about the people that actually need opioids that are dealing with chronic pain or cancer or whatever the case may be, and they can't get it because of the people that misuse or abuse fentanyl or whatever the case may be. Again, I don't know why I'm on this rant with opioids right now, but it's the reality of the situation. This is why we can't have nice things. I go back, and I don't want to harp on this for too terribly long, but I go back and I see people making applications of herbicides with hose-in sprayers. And not an herbicide like a three-way herbicide that can be a little bit forgiving. I'm talking about an herbicide like methylfuran methyl, where an ounce of it over an acre can cause problems for trees. It's not guaranteed it's going to happen, but the reality of it is that the potential is there for it to cause problems. So inherently, if you're not sure about something, first things first, if you have a question about a product, the first thing you should consult each and every time, and I promise if you start doing it now, it will do nothing but pay dividends for you in the long run, is consult the label. Get used to reading the labels. Get good at reading the labels. Get good at interpreting labels. Get good at understanding and realizing, comprehending the language that's used in labels. Labels are difficult to read on the front end, but I promise the more you practice, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You see such common trends about it. Read it, think about it, digest it, read it again the next day. You'll start to see and understand trends in it, and you'll be able to read between the lines on what it is they're suggesting. You may even learn something about a product that you didn't know. Like, I'll give you an example, a claim. Did you know there are certain herbicides you can mix with the claim and reduce the efficacy of phenoxyprop? 2,4-D. You mix 2,4-D with the claim and you're not going to get a result out of a claim at all. You're just not going to get it to happen. But you can take a claim and mix it with fluroxypyr and you'll be fine. How did I learn that? I didn't magically transpose that into the back of my brain somehow on some internet Facebook forum. I didn't learn that on TikTok. I learned that by reading the label. So if I'm going to harp on anything, I'm going to harp on the times I get asked questions like, what should my rate per acre be? Your label is going to give you use case scenarios on what your rate per acre should be. It's going to tell you, can you apply it when it's 90 degrees? If it doesn't say anything about applying over a certain temperature, that means there are no temperature restrictions. If you're wondering about a reseed interval, if it doesn't say anything about a reseed interval, it may not affect your seed germination. If it does, normally, 9 times out of 10, it'll say something on there. And what I see a lot of people doing right now, and this is the part that also frustrates me, is a lot of people will jump over to agriculture and pick up a product designed for rice or soybean or peanuts and attempt to relay that and use it in residential lawn care settings. Listen, I understand it's more expensive to buy something that is labeled for lawns, but you have to understand, if you choose to do so and you get caught, that's your license, that's your fine. You have to deal with the repercussions. Then the second thing is, even though it looks like they line up apples to apples, okay, this one's got 41% active. This one's got 41% active. What you can't see is what else they have in the can. Just because it's 41% active does not mean it is 100% pure glyphosate in there. One of the big factors about glyphosate in this whole trial is that, well, we understand the glyphosate molecule itself may not be dangerous, but it may be the tank mix companions, it may be the adjuvants that we add to it that are actually causing the health problems that people are running into. You don't know what those inert ingredients are, what they do, what their purpose is, and how it will interact with turf grass. What they do know is that if it is labeled for cotton, apple trees, blackberries, whatever the case may be, if it is labeled for that, they know it is safe in that use scenario. Now, it's not to say you may get lucky. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. And it may be straight up apples for apples where they just stick a different label on it. But you play with fire, the potential for you to get burned is there. One of the problems I see right now in terms of products and being overused or used in scenarios that they don't understand, for instance, is tenacity, mesotrione. Mesotrione is being represented right now as a cure-all product. It is not. It is a tool in the toolbox. It is not very effective as a pre-emergent, yet people are applying it as a pre-emergent. People are using it to control crabgrass, but if you look at an efficacy trial, you'll see it is not very effective when it comes to controlling crabgrass. There are so many variations of use case scenarios for it, but oftentimes I see it just being pulled out because it's the only thing they can think to apply, because in reality, it's the only thing they know. And it's the only thing they see other people apply. Therefore, they think it's okay. You ask them, why am I applying it? I've got weeds. What weeds are you trying to control? Broadleaf weeds. Which broadleaf weeds? I don't know. Figure it out. Because here's the thing, tenacity is just not that effective as a product. It used to be. It used to be, and you know who lives and dies by it? And I'll tell you who taught me this. Chris Helms taught me this. You know who lives and dies by tenacity? Sod farms. Sod farms that grow cool season grass live and die by it. They absolutely love it. They have to have it. That's the only way they can turn grass as fast as they do. But I guarantee you, it continues to be overused at the rate it is. You know what's going to happen? Bye-bye. So long. See ya. It's going to be on the top of everybody's radar because it's the only thing anybody runs to. As he said, but I saw it in a YouTube video. Exactly. I'm on YouTube talking right now, and I promise you, I'm going to be the first to say, do not take anything you hear or see on YouTube as gospel. Unless it is your favorite preacher or pastor preaching the gospel, I promise it ain't. I make mistakes. Ray makes mistakes. Ryan DeMay makes mistakes. You insert whoever you want, and there are mistakes. When you have to come up with this much content, when you are a content creator and you're looking for content, it becomes difficult to find. For instance, the show runs 5 days a week for 2 hours every day. I've got to come up with content for 2 hours to talk about and fill a void. I am liable to make a mistake in that time frame. Now, you think about that's me, right? I've been doing this since 2007, right? So 13 years, that's the experience I have, not in content creation, but in turfgrass management, those 13 years, and I still make mistakes. Imagine the people that have been doing it for 3 months. Imagine the people that have been doing it for 2 years. Imagine the people that have been doing it for 18 months. And they're trying to tell you some sort of shortcut by using MSMA, by taking the gate and mixing it in a hose-in sprayer and spraying it up in the air to get a light coat on it. It doesn't work that way. One of my favorite favorite and least favorite things I have ever decided to do is YouTube. Now, I say this with love. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love coming on the live stream. I love dedicating the time to answer some questions and dispel some myths. I enjoy that piece of it. But you have to remember, from my perspective, I do this for a living, right? I live and die by this. I communicate every day with literally thousands of applicators across the country who do this for a living. Thousands of applicators across the country for a living. This is what they do. In the amount of bad information that gets passed on this platform is almost disgusting. And it's frustrating for me. And it keeps me awake at night. And that's why I go on long extended breaks away from it, to get it out of my head. In the middle of the lawsuit in San Diego with Rodney and the glyphosate case with Bayer, some idiot put out a YouTube video of him sucking Roundup off his finger because he was doing it for clicks. Because they were doing it for clicks. And that's what ends up happening in an effort to continually generate clicks, in an effort to continually chase, what's the word I'm looking for? To chase for clout. To chase the never-ending desire to or the obligation to generate content. As you run that down and you run out of things to talk about because you haven't been doing this as a career, because you've only been doing it for 3 or 4 months. That's when you take on artistic liberty. And that's when mistakes get made. I said I wasn't going to rant about this, but here I go. I'm getting sucked into it the more I keep talking about it, you know. And it's not to say it's not to say that I'm innocent of all this. I have it happen too. I have it happen all the time. But the reality of the situation is this, is that, and I'm going to put this out there for everybody. If you feel like you want to represent either yourself, your own personal brand, or your business on an online platform and display yourself as some sort of expert, you better be sure you are an expert. Otherwise, the only thing you're doing is diluting the industry for the rest of us that live and die by it. It's like the people that are out there that say you only need one fertilizer. And you're stupid if you use it any other way. All you need is one. I've seen it. I've seen people say that. Well, all you need is triple 13. I've seen people say all you need is 4600. It doesn't matter what the case is. I've seen people say all you need is humic acid. I've seen it all. But there's a reason why. There is a reason why. At universities all across the country, you see turf grass management as a university major. It is not a liberal arts degree. Although say, can you share one of your biggest screw-ups in turf? I mean, big screw-up. Yeah, which one do you want to hear? I've got hundreds of them. I can't tell you. I've said, Aldo, I don't know how long you've listened, but I've gave dozens of examples of the times I've killed grass, killed lawns, smoked them, dead to the dirt. And that is a difficult pill to swallow, to go knock on the door and tell them I screwed up. I'll give you an example. I had a professor who was at the University of Tennessee, and I did not know she lived in the house behind the property that I was treating. And how many oak trees have I smoked? A lot of MSM kills. And ones I was not prosecuted for, but I was brought before the plant board in the state of Georgia to figure out why they were all dying. So I get called out to do this vegetation job, right? And I got it in my head. I forecasted. I saw the temperature. I wasn't going to be over 85 that day. I was going to make an application of triclopyr and glyphosate on a residential property to kill all the underbrush in this backyard. And so I load up the sprayer. I'm going ultra low volume. I'm using a shower head, and I'm gonna apply at 120 psi, 120 psi, low pressure, and I'm just gonna coat leaves until wet. The high was expected on that day was like 82 degrees, and I'm actually using one of those triclopyr formulations that's not an ester, but it's also not an amine. It's Tricera from Helena was the actual active ingredient that I was using. And I'm label safe up to 85, right? So I make my application. Everything's great, sprayed great, no problem. I was there for an hour and 15. I'm out. 2 weeks later, the customer I did the treatment for has received an email from the neighbor behind his house, and it looks like a university professor put it together. And it showed the gradual decline of all the red buds on her property. I look at the name, and it was a teacher I had in college. I go to her house. I knock on the door. She comes to the door, and I thought she was going to choke me to death. And he's telling me stories. I imported some of these red buds from Japan. I got some of them when I was in Germany for whatever horticultural conference. Irreplaceable red buds from all around the world. And I defoliated every one of them in her backyard. There's probably 30. Ones that were planted in commemoration of the death of her father, dead, or at least defoliated. It was horrific. It was terrible. It was awful. That was the situation I got myself into, and so you live and you learn. I learned the hard way in that scenario. It is what it is. Mistakes happen. And you know what I did? I said I would do whatever it takes to make it right with you. And I was lucky. They all came back. So fortunate. It was really big. And it just happens. It happens. Temperature inversion got me. I thought I was prepared for what was going to happen, and I made a mistake. It didn't work out, and that's one of those things. And I tell that story so people learn from it, so they don't make that mistake. Where if there is a chance for temperature inversion, they will think twice about it. They're not going to make the same mistakes I do. I say so. I teach about it because it's important that you learn and grow from your mistakes. Do not repeat the same mistakes that others have made. Whatever you want to call that, the definition of insanity or whatever the case may be, just don't make it. That's why I stress reading the label like I do. That's why I stress do not go off-label with your MSMA. That's why I preach the way I preach when I talk about these things. Because I have screwed up tremendously, and I'm here to be a resource so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I made. Now, nobody go anywhere because I'm going to tell you what. Got a little bit of a surprise because guess what's coming up next?
I think an extended 2 hours of the Grass Factor.
Oh, actually, we're going to have Keeping Up with Mr. Jones. What are you doing, man?
Just watching you have a blast.
I tell you what, it's already 6:01. Let's hop over to your stream real quick, and I'll get off this one. And if you don't care, I'll hang out with you here for a second.
All right.
Clear the halls and get to your class, because your turf teacher is getting ready to call the roll. And if you missed this class, you just aren't keeping up with Mr. Jones. This class is brought to you by Pro Products, providing specialty irrigation products for rust stain removal, pest repellent prevention, fertilizers, and scale reducers for over 25 years. To learn more, visit ProProducts.com today. Now here's your turf teacher, Mr. Jones.
Keep it on with Mr. Jones. We're keeping.
All right. We still got Matt, the Grass Factor Martin here. We got the turf head with us. This is Laura Schubert. What's going on, buddy?
Oh man, I get frustrated. I was talking about the experts who are out there giving lawn care advice on TikTok and whichever platform they feel like talking about today. And one of the big ones is MSMA. MSMA used to be the go-to herbicide that everybody used for everything, and they pulled it away. It's no longer available. Yeah. But True. What people do is they go out and they find it on eBay, or they go to a co-op where it's still used in farm or in sod production or right-of-ways, and they'll buy it there, and then they'll go spray it, and then they'll go brag to everybody on the internet. Look what I got today. I got a banned herbicide, and I'm out putting it down. What you need to do is mix it up at 3 ounces per gallon in your backpack. Get out there, do a little squirt with this. Gonna kill all your shit, man. It's the best. And it infuriates me. Turf teacher, it infuriates me because why do we spend so much time educating ourselves to only be shat on by some dumb redneck who thinks he's cool for doing something off-label?
You're never going to change that, man. You're never going to change it.
I know.
It's influencers, man. They probably didn't have they don't have a pesticide. I guarantee you the dude did not have a license.
No, they don't.
So, really, you got to have a license to spray pesticides? I got it in the milk jug in the back of their truck.
How much you put in there? Oh, I give it 2 glugs. I do 2 glugs and I fill it to the top with water.
Lord have mercy. But what pisses me off more than that is the homeowners that hire these people. Trying to save $1, man. Trying to save $1.
I know. And yes, and think about it. And think about how many times you've shown up to a property and they're like, I don't understand. I've gotten these 2 quotes, and then they're going to charge me $37 to mow, aerate, seed, and apply fertilizer, and you're charging me $290. Why in the hell would I spend $290 when I can get it done for $36?
Then you ask them, dude, I've heard this right here. When it comes to plugging and seeding, I've seen guys out there with straw telling the people that the seed is in the straw.
No.
And they never apply it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they're like, when we shake the straw in the bare spots, that's where the seed's in the straw.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
A little bit of ryegrass, maybe. A little bit of corn coming up. But it's true, man. It's true.
It pains me. It keeps me awake at night. I shouldn't let these things like this bother me, but you know.
Well, I know, dude, and it's tough. But why is this only happens like in lawn care and mowing? Like these guys are out there ready to cutthroat and underprice just to get the job. And I'll tell you, we were at the Green and Grow show 2 years ago. I was there on the educational day, and I was standing there with my dad. One of his friends comes up talking to him. They're sitting there talking. They're just shooting the breeze. And another lawn care guy walks by. And the guy, the rage that come across his face, he's like, I could kill that guy. I could kill that guy. He said he's bidding on some of these projects I've been mowing for years. And all they did was mow, blow, and go. And he says, you know what? I'm going to go back to my property managers and tell them I'm going to cut it for free just so I could put him out of damn business. I looked at him. I said, if you start cutting the stuff for free, don't you think you're going to go out of business too? He said, I don't care. Just as long as I can put him out. That's the kind of people that we're dealing with, man.
Yeah. You know, and maybe you see, I don't know. I've never heard of a welder taking on projects for free to put somebody else out of business or, you know, to make a splash in the marketplace. Maybe they do, and I'm not that involved with it, but it just seems like, you know, okay, I decided I'm going to go get a Skag mower. I'm going to get a trailer. I'm going to pull it behind my Jeep Cherokee. And I'm going to pick up 30 yards, and I'm going to cut them at $30 no matter what. Because if I cut 30 of them a day, and I cut them at $30, that means I'm going to make $900 that day.
Yep. Yeah. Dude, it's the easiest business to get into. By lunch, I swear, you could leave at 8 o'clock one morning and be in business. You'd be cutting grass after lunch by the time you went and got the mower, the weed eater, the trailer, everything. Too easy. It's too easy.
The barrier to entry is too low. You know, and I've always said this, Eric, is I wish, you know, we see trade organizations like the NALP, which is great. I think it's a fantastic thing. I love the trade organizations, but what I wish was that there was some sort of identifiable, more so than just even a license, but even for you know, like landscape maintenance, some sort of enforced certification that the public was educated enough to be able to say that I know if the mowing expert, I know if the maintenance person, whoever it is, if they have this certification, I can guarantee that they are elite in their industry.
Yeah. And there isn't. I mean, you know, you got the PGMS, but that's more for, you know, like campuses and large corporate parks. These are the individuals, these are like superintendents of golf courses, but they're for, you know, larger properties.
Yeah.
There's really nothing for residential lawn care, residential mowing, no type of organization.
At least nothing that is promoted widespreadly that everybody can point to and be like, that's the one.
Sure. But, you know, that same individual that you're talking about wears the wife beater T-shirt. He has on a pair of pants that he's cut off. He's got on a pair of brogans with black socks pulled up to his knees, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. So where is the professionalism at in this industry? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We heard ourselves years ago. I heard my dad talk about that all the time. He said, you know, plumbers got licensed years ago, electricians years ago. HVAC guys, years ago, back in the 40s and 50s, and they really put on a professional image. The green industry didn't. We didn't. We did not want license. We didn't want any certifications. We just wanted to fly by night, and it hurt us a long time ago. And now that we're trying to do these things, people don't want to pay the money. They don't want to pay the money for license. I mean, our landscape contractor license costs us $60 a year, and people complain about the $60 to have a license. Our pesticide license is $75. So for $135 a year, you can do unlimited work, and it is a professional thing to have in a portfolio to put on the side of your truck. But no, they don't want to do that. They're not going to do that. They'd rather take that and buy more White Claws.
Well, I'll turn everything over to y'all. Thank you for being.
You just needed to vent.
I did, and thank you for being a positive voice in the industry. It means everything to me. So thank you.
I think you are too, man. It takes individuals like us, the three of us sitting here, to really push it out there, and we have to set the example. And it's not. Unfortunately, it's not going to turn around this generation. It's going to be the next.
Yeah.
But we gotta weed them out, and I don't think there's a way to do that. We need to do it, but how do we do it? Because for every guy that goes out of business, there's two more that started the next day, the same situation. So
keep up the good fight.
Oh yes.
All right.
Oh yes.
I'm gonna turn this over to y'all. I love you both. Y'all have a good rest of the day.
All right, buddy. You take care, my friend.
All right. Let me see for the YouTube people that are still on here. I am calling it a day. I've got to go or finish running my recordings. I thank you, everybody, for tuning in and checking this out. I'm going to start to stream this to YouTube, and we'll see what ends up happening with it. So I thank you all, and we will see